Welcome back, everyone. This is the second part of Level 1 of my new Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg series, where we will cover almost everything from alien civilizations to government mysteries. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this series, and of course, thank you for watching. Great Boston Art Heist. The Great Boston Art Heist refers to one of the largest art thefts in history, which took place on March 18, 1990, at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, Massachusetts. The heist remains unsolved to this day, leaving behind a legacy of mystery and intrigue that has captivated the art world for decades. In the early hours of March 18th, two men disguised as police officers gained entry to the museum by claiming to be responding to a disturbance call. Once inside, they overpowered the security guards and proceeded to steal 13 pieces of art, including works by renowned artists such as Rembrandt, Vermeer, and Degas. The stolen artwork, which has an estimated value of over $500 million, has never been recovered, and the identities of the perpetrators remain unknown. Despite extensive investigations by law enforcement and the offering of substantial rewards for information leading to the recovery of the artwork, the case remains one of the most notorious unsolved crimes in history. Numerous theories have been proposed about the motive behind the heist and the whereabouts of the stolen artwork. Some speculate that the theft was commissioned by a wealthy collector or organized crime syndicate, while others believe it may have been carried out by individuals seeking to ransom the artwork for profit. Despite the lack of concrete leads, law enforcement agencies have continued to pursue the case, periodically revisiting old leads and exploring new avenues of inquiry in the hopes of finally solving the mystery of the Great Boston Art Heist. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum continues to display empty frames in remembrance of the stolen artwork, serving as a poignant reminder of the enduring impact of the heist on the art world and the quest for justice for the stolen masterpieces. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the Great Boston Art Heist remains ongoing, with law enforcement agencies continuing to appeal to the public for information and assistance in solving this historic crime. ABC Daycare Fire. The ABC Daycare Fire tragedy occurred on August 9, 2009, in Hermosillo, Mexico, and remains one of the deadliest daycare center fires in history. The fire claimed the lives of 49 children and left dozens more injured, sending shockwaves through the community and sparking widespread outrage and calls for justice. The fire broke out in the ABC Daycare Center, a privately run facility that was operating in a converted warehouse with inadequate safety measures. The exact cause of the fire remains disputed, with initial reports suggesting an electrical fault, while later investigations pointed to possible arson. The lack of adequate fire safety measures, including the absence of fire exits and proper evacuation procedures, contributed to the high death toll and the inability of caregivers to safely evacuate the children from the burning building. The tragedy prompted public outcry and demands for accountability from both the daycare center operators and government authorities responsible for oversight. In the aftermath of the fire, investigations revealed a pattern of negligence and corruption within the daycare industry in Mexico, with many facilities operating without proper licensing or adherence to safety regulations. The ABC Daycare Fire served as a wake-up call for authorities to improve safety standards and enforcement measures to prevent similar tragedies in the future. Despite efforts to hold those responsible accountable, including arrests and prosecutions of daycare center operators and government officials, justice has been elusive for the families of the victims. The scars of the ABC Daycare Fire continue to linger, with the memory of the lost children serving as a reminder of the need for greater vigilance and oversight in the protection of vulnerable populations. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the ABC Daycare Fire remains ongoing, with efforts focused on uncovering the truth behind the tragedy and ensuring that those responsible are held accountable for their actions. Juarez Femicides, 1990s to 2005. The Juarez Femicides, spanning from the 1990s to 2005, refer to a series of brutal murders of women and girls in the border city of Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. The killings, characterized by their brutality and the apparent targeting of young working-class women, have left a legacy of fear and outrage in the community, as well as raising questions about gender-based violence and impunity. Beginning in the early 1990s, young women began disappearing from the streets of Ciudad Juarez at an alarming rate. Many of the victims were factory workers employed in the city's burgeoning maquiladora industry, which attracted young women from rural areas seeking employment opportunities. The bodies of the victims, often showing signs of sexual assault and torture, were frequently discovered dumped in vacant lots, alleys, or desert areas on the outskirts of the city. The sheer number of murders and the brutality of the killings sparked international attention and condemnation, leading to calls for justice and accountability. Despite numerous investigations and the arrest of multiple suspects over the years, convictions have been rare, and the perpetrators of the femicides have largely gone unpunished. The lack of accountability has fueled speculation about the involvement of organized crime, corrupt officials, and societal misogyny in perpetuating the cycle of violence against women in Ciudad Juarez. The Juarez femicides have prompted widespread outrage and activism both within Mexico and internationally, with human rights organizations and advocacy groups demanding action to address the root causes of gender-based violence and ensure justice for the victims and their families. Efforts to address the femicides have included initiatives to improve law enforcement response, provide support services for victims and their families, and challenge societal attitudes towards women and girls. However, progress has been slow, and the legacy of the Juarez femicides continues to cast a shadow over the city and the wider issue of gender-based violence in Mexico. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the Juarez femicides remains ongoing, with renewed efforts by authorities and civil society to bring justice to the victims and address the systemic issues that have allowed the violence to persist for decades. 21-Faced Monster. The term 21-Faced Monster refers to a mysterious and elusive criminal entity that has been linked to a series of unsolved crimes in various parts of the world. The name stems from the numerous aliases and disguises employed by the perpetrator, making it difficult for authorities to identify and apprehend them. The 21-Faced Monster is believed to operate with meticulous planning and precision, targeting a wide range of criminal activities including theft, extortion, kidnapping, and even murder. The perpetrator's ability to seamlessly blend into different environments and assume multiple identities has earned them a reputation as one of the most elusive and cunning criminals in modern history. Despite extensive efforts by law enforcement agencies to track down and apprehend the 21-Faced Monster, the perpetrator has proven to be incredibly elusive, leaving behind a trail of baffled investigators and unsolved cases. The lack of a clear pattern or motive behind the crimes has only added to the mystery surrounding the perpetrator's identity and motives. Over the years, numerous theories have emerged about the true identity of the 21-Faced Monster, ranging from lone operatives to highly organized criminal syndicates. Some speculate that the perpetrator may have connections to powerful individuals or even government agencies, allowing them to evade capture and operate with impunity. The 21-Faced Monster has become a legendary figure in the annals of true crime, inspiring fascination and fear in equal measure. The sheer audacity and cunning displayed by the perpetrator have left law enforcement officials and the public alike grappling with the enigma of their identity and motives. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the 21-Faced Monster remains ongoing, with law enforcement agencies around the world continuing to pursue leads and explore new avenues of inquiry in the hopes of finally bringing the elusive criminal to justice. Taman Shud. The Taman Shud case, also known as the Mystery of the Somerton Man, is one of Australia's most perplexing unsolved mysteries, characterized by its cryptic clues and lack of resolution. The case centers around the discovery of an unidentified man's body on Somerton Beach near Adelaide, South Australia, on December 1, 1948. The man, dubbed the Somerton Man due to the beach where his body was found, was dressed in a suit and tie, leading investigators to believe he was not a typical beachgoer. His identity remains unknown to this day, as does the cause of his death, which was deemed suspicious due to the lack of any apparent injuries or signs of struggle. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Taman Shud case is the discovery of a scrap of paper with the words Taman Shud, meaning ended or finished in Persian, printed on it, found hidden in a pocket of the man's trousers. The paper was traced to a rare book of Persian poetry, leading investigators to speculate about its significance and possible connection to the man's identity or death. Further investigation revealed a hidden code known as the Taman Shud Code, inscribed on the back of the scrap of paper. Despite extensive efforts by cryptographers and intelligence agencies to decipher the code, its meaning remains a mystery, fueling speculation about espionage, international intrigue, and clandestine operations. The Taman Shud case has inspired numerous theories and conjecture over the years, ranging from espionage and Cold War intrigue to illicit affairs and clandestine operations. Despite the passage of over 7 decades, the true identity of the Somerton man and the circumstances surrounding his death remain shrouded in mystery, leaving investigators and amateur sleuths alike grappling with unanswered questions and cryptic clues. The Taman Shud case continues to captivate the public imagination and intrigue, with new discoveries and theories periodically emerging to reignite interest in the enigmatic mystery of the Somerton man. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the Taman Shud case remains open, with authorities and amateur detectives alike continuing to pursue leads and explore new avenues of inquiry in the hopes of finally unraveling the truth behind one of Australia's most enduring, unsolved mysteries. Isdal Unknown Woman. The Isdal woman, also known as the Isdal Unknown Woman, is the nickname given to an unidentified woman whose body was discovered in the Isdalen Valley near Bergen, Norway in November 1970. Her mysterious death and the circumstances surrounding it have puzzled investigators for decades, earning the case a reputation as one of Norway's most enduring unsolved mysteries. The body of the Isdal woman was found by hikers in a remote area of the Isdalen Valley, surrounded by evidence suggesting a deliberate attempt to conceal her identity. The woman's face had been disfigured with acid, and her belongings, including clothing labels and identification documents, had been removed or altered, making it nearly impossible to identify her. An autopsy revealed that the Isdal woman had died from a combination of carbon monoxide poisoning and ingestion of a large quantity of sleeping pills. However, the exact circumstances of her death and the reasons behind it remain a mystery, as does her true identity and background. The Isdal woman's case has been the subject of extensive investigation and speculation over the years, with numerous theories proposed about who she was and why she met such a tragic end. Some speculate that she may have been a spy or involved in espionage activities, given the apparent efforts to conceal her identity and the presence of multiple passports and wigs among her belongings. Others believe that the Isdal woman may have been a victim of foul play, perhaps involved in criminal activities or caught up in a web of intrigue and danger. Despite efforts by law enforcement agencies and amateur sleuths to uncover the truth, the identity of the Isdal woman and the circumstances surrounding her death remain shrouded in mystery. In recent years, advancements in forensic technology and renewed interest in the case have led to new leads and developments in the investigation. However, the true identity of the Isdal woman and the reasons behind her tragic demise continue to elude authorities, leaving the case open and the mystery unsolved. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the Isdal woman's death remains ongoing, with authorities and amateur detectives alike continuing to pursue leads and explore new avenues of inquiry in the hopes of finally unraveling the truth behind one of Norway's most enduring unsolved mysteries. Hinterkaifeck. The Hinterkaifeck murders are one of Germany's most infamous unsolved crimes, steeped in mystery and speculation. The case revolves around the brutal murders of 6 inhabitants of a remote farmstead located near the Bavarian town of Gruber, which occurred in March 1922. The victims included Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, Victoria's 2 children, Cecilia and Joseph, and the family's maid, Maria Baumgartner. The murders were discovered several days after they occurred, when neighbors grew concerned after not seeing the family for some time. What makes the Hinterkaifeck murders particularly eerie is the apparent lack of a motive or suspect. There were no signs of forced entry into the farmstead, leading investigators to believe that the perpetrators may have been known to the victims or even lived on the property. Furthermore, it was discovered that the family had reported strange occurrences in the days leading up to the murders, including unexplained footsteps in the snow leading to the house and mysterious newspaper deliveries. Some speculate that the farmstead may have been haunted or cursed, adding to the mystique surrounding the case. Despite extensive investigations and public interest, no suspects were ever conclusively identified or arrested in connection with the murders. Numerous theories have been proposed over the years, ranging from disputes over land or inheritance to the involvement of a deranged outsider or even a hired hitman. The Hinterkaifeck murders have captured the imagination of true crime enthusiasts and amateur sleuths for nearly a century, with countless books, articles, and documentaries exploring the various aspects of the case. Despite the passage of time, the mystery of who killed the Gruber family and their maid remains unsolved, leaving behind a legacy of fear and fascination. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the Hinterkaifeck murders remains open, with authorities periodically revisiting the case in the hopes of finally uncovering the truth behind one of Germany's most enduring unsolved mysteries. Theft of the 300 million yen. The theft of the 300 million yen, also known as the 300 million yen robbery or the 300 million yen incident, is one of Japan's most notorious unsolved crimes. It took place on December 10, 1968, when a bank employee was transporting a large sum of money, totaling 300 million yen, equivalent to approximately $817,000 USD at the time, between branches of the Nihon Shintaku Ginko Bank in Tokyo. The bank employee, a 29-year-old man named Shoji Nishimoto, was responsible for delivering the money via company car. However, when he arrived at his destination, he discovered that the money was missing from the trunk of his vehicle. Despite an extensive search and investigation, the stolen money and the perpetrator, Iyaz, remained elusive. The theft of the 300 million yen sent shockwaves through Japan, making headlines across the country and capturing the public's imagination. The sheer audacity of the crime, combined with the substantial sum of money involved, led to widespread speculation and scrutiny of potential suspects and motives. Numerous theories have been proposed over the years regarding the identity of the thief or thieves and the fate of the stolen money. Some believe that the theft may have been an inside job, involving collusion between the bank employee and accomplices. Others speculate that organized crime groups may have been responsible, using the stolen funds to finance illegal activities. Despite extensive investigations by law enforcement agencies, including the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department, no arrests have ever been made in connection with the theft of the 300 million yen. The case remains unsolved to this day, leaving behind a legacy of intrigue and mystery that continues to fascinate true crime enthusiasts and amateur sleuths. The theft of the 300 million yen is often cited as one of Japan's most iconic unsolved mysteries, alongside other infamous cases such as the disappearance of Shoko Asahara and the Tokyo subway sarin attack. Despite the passage of more than 5 decades, the truth behind the theft and the whereabouts of the stolen money remain unknown, making it a lasting enigma in Japanese criminal history. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the theft of the 300 million yen remains open, with authorities periodically revisiting the case, in the hopes of finally uncovering the truth behind one of Japan's most enduring unsolved crimes. Times Square 2008 bombing. The Times Square bombing of 2008 refers to a failed terrorist attack that occurred in the heart of New York City's Times Square on May 1, 2008. The incident, which involved a car bomb placed in a parked vehicle, sent shockwaves through the city and raised concerns about the threat of terrorism in the United States. The attempted bombing took place when an individual parked a Nissan Pathfinder SUV loaded with explosives in Times Square, a bustling commercial and tourist hub known for its bright lights and iconic landmarks. Fortunately, alert pedestrians noticed smoke emanating from the vehicle and alerted authorities, who were able to evacuate the area and safely defuse the bomb before it detonated. The incident sparked a massive law enforcement response, with local, state, and federal agencies mobilizing to investigate the attempted attack and identify the perpetrator. As surveillance footage captured images of a suspect fleeing the scene, leading to a nationwide manhunt for the individual responsible. In the days following the bombing attempt, investigators uncovered evidence linking the incident to a Pakistani-American man named Faisal Shahzad. Shahzad was subsequently arrested while attempting to flee the country, and later pleaded guilty to charges related to the attempted bombing. During his trial, Shahzad admitted to receiving training and support from the Pakistani Taliban, Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, and claimed that the attempted bombing was intended as retaliation for U.S. military actions in Muslim countries. He was ultimately sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. The Times Square bombing of 2008 served as a sobering reminder of the ongoing threat of terrorism and the need for constant vigilance and preparedness. It also underscored the importance of community awareness and cooperation in thwarting terrorist plots and preventing loss of life. Although the attempted bombing was ultimately unsuccessful and the perpetrator was brought to justice, the incident left a lasting impact on the city of New York and the nation as a whole, prompting renewed efforts to enhance security measures and counter-terrorism efforts. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the Times Square bombing of 2008 remains closed, with Faisal Shahzad serving his sentence in federal prison. The incident stands as a testament to the resilience of the American people in the face of terrorism and the unwavering commitment of law enforcement to protect the safety and security of the nation. Burger Chef Homicides. The Burger Chef homicides refer to a chilling, unsolved murder case that occurred in Speedway, Indiana in November 1978. The case involves the brutal killings of 4 young employees from a Burger Chef restaurant, a crime that shocked the local community and continues to baffle investigators to this day. On the night of November 17, 1978, 4 employees, Ruth Shelton, Jane Freet, Daniel Davis, and Mark Flemons, vanished from the Burger Chef restaurant where they worked. Their bodies were discovered 2 days later in a wooded area about 20 miles away from the restaurant. They had been shot execution style. The discovery of the bodies and the apparent lack of motive for the killings sent shockwaves through the Speedway community and garnered national attention. Despite extensive investigations by local law enforcement and the assistance of the FBI, no suspects were ever charged in connection with the murders. The Burger Chef homicides case has been marked by numerous twists and turns over the years, including false leads, conflicting witness statements, and allegations of police misconduct. Despite the passage of more than 4 decades, the case remains unsolved, leaving behind a legacy of pain and unanswered questions for the victims' families and loved ones. In recent years, efforts to re-examine the evidence and pursue new leads in the case have been undertaken by both law enforcement agencies and independent investigators. Advances in forensic technology and renewed public interest in the case have led to renewed hope that the truth behind the Burger Chef homicides may one day be uncovered. The unsolved nature of the Burger Chef homicides serves as a stark reminder of the toll that violent crime can take on communities and the enduring quest for justice for the victims and their families. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the murders remains open, with authorities continuing to pursue leads and explore new avenues of inquiry in the hopes of finally bringing closure to one of Indiana's most infamous cold cases. I-70 killer. The I-70 killer, also known as the Midwest serial killer, was a notorious unidentified serial killer who terrorized the Midwest region of the United States in the early 1990s. The killer targeted retail establishments along the Interstate 70, I-70 highway, committing a series of armed robberies and murders that left law enforcement agencies baffled and communities in fear. The spree of violence attributed to the I-70 killer began in April 1992 and continued for several months, with attacks occurring in Indiana, Missouri, and Kansas. The victims were primarily employees of small businesses, including motels, gas stations, and convenience stores, located near exits along the I-70 corridor. The killer's modus operandi typically involved entering the establishments late at night or in the early morning hours, brandishing a firearm and demanding money from the victims. In several instances, the robberies escalated into cold-blooded murders, with the killer shooting and killing employees before fleeing the scene. Despite the efforts of multiple law enforcement agencies to apprehend the perpetrator, the I-70 killer managed to evade capture, leaving behind a trail of fear and devastation in their wake. The random and seemingly motiveless nature of the attacks only added to the sense of unease and uncertainty among residents and business owners along the I-70 corridor. The investigation into the I-70 killer's crimes involved extensive surveillance footage analysis, witness interviews, and forensic analysis of evidence collected from crime scenes. Despite these efforts, the killer's identity and motives remained elusive, and the case eventually went cold. In the years since the I-70 killer's reign of terror, numerous theories and suspects have been proposed, but none have led to a breakthrough in the case. The killer's true identity and whereabouts remain unknown, leaving law enforcement agencies and the public alike grappling with unanswered questions and lingering fears. The I-70 killer's spree of violence serves as a chilling reminder of the potential for random acts of violence and the importance of community vigilance and cooperation in combating crime. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the I-70 killer remains open, with authorities continuing to pursue leads and explore new avenues of inquiry in the hopes of finally bringing the elusive serial killer to justice. Setagaya family homicide. The Setagaya family homicide, also known as the Setagaya murders, is a tragic and unsolved case that occurred in Setagaya, Tokyo, Japan on December 30th, 2000. The case involves the brutal murders of the Miyazawa family, a couple in their 40s, Mikio and Yasuko Miyazawa, and their 2 children, Nina and Rei, aged 8 and 6 respectively, in their home. The murders shocked the nation and sparked one of the largest and most intensive investigations in Japanese history. The perpetrator, S, entered the Miyazawa family's home during the night and bludgeoned them to death with a blunt instrument. The bodies were discovered the following morning by Yasuko's mother, who went to check on the family after they failed to answer phone calls. Despite extensive efforts by law enforcement agencies, including forensic analysis, DNA testing, and interviews with witnesses and potential suspects, the Setagaya family homicide remains unsolved to this day. The lack of clear motives, witnesses, or conclusive evidence has made it difficult for investigators to identify the perpetrator as responsible for the brutal killings. The Setagaya murders have garnered widespread media attention and public interest in Japan, with numerous theories and speculation emerging about the identity and motives of the killer race. Some theories suggest a possible connection to a series of unsolved child murders in the Tokyo area, while others speculate about personal vendettas or financial motives. The lack of closure in the Setagaya family homicide has left the victim's family and loved ones devastated and frustrated by the lack of justice. The case remains one of Japan's most infamous unsolved mysteries, with periodic updates and appeals for information from authorities renewing public interest in the case. In recent years, advancements in forensic technology and renewed efforts by law enforcement agencies have led to new leads and developments in the investigation. However, the elusive nature of the case and the passage of time have made it increasingly challenging to uncover the truth behind the Setagaya murders. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the Setagaya family homicide remains open, with authorities continuing to pursue leads and explore new avenues of inquiry in the hopes of finally bringing closure to one of Japan's most tragic and enduring unsolved cases. Phantom Killer. The Phantom Killer, also known as the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, refers to a series of unsolved homicides that occurred in the Texarkana area, spanning the Texas-Arkansas border in 1946. The case remains one of the most infamous unsolved murder mysteries in American history, characterized by its chilling brutality and the elusive nature of the perpetrator. The killings began in February 1946, when a young couple, Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jean Larry, were attacked while parked in a secluded lover's lane. Hollis survived the assault, but Larry was tragically killed. Over the following months, several more attacks occurred, resulting in a total of 5 deaths and 3 serious injuries. The Phantom Killer, as the assailant came to be known, preyed upon young couples parked in remote areas at night, using a variety of weapons, including firearms and blunt objects, to carry out the attacks. The killings sparked panic and fear in the Texarkana community, leading to widespread speculation and suspicion. Despite extensive investigations by local law enforcement agencies, and the involvement of the Texas Rangers and the FBI, the Phantom Killer was never apprehended, and the case remains unsolved to this day. Numerous suspects were considered and questioned over the years, but no conclusive evidence was ever found to link anyone definitively to the crimes. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders have since become the subject of books, documentaries, and films, contributing to their status as one of America's most enduring unsolved mysteries. The case has inspired numerous theories and conjecture about the identity and motives of the Phantom Killer, ranging from a deranged loner to a transient drifter. The legacy of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders continues to haunt the Texarkana community and capture the public's imagination, serving as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unsolved crimes and the enduring quest for justice. Despite the passage of more than 7 decades, the identity of the Phantom Killer and the truth behind the murders remain shrouded in mystery. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the Texarkana Moonlight Murders remains open, with authorities periodically revisiting the case in the hopes of finally uncovering the truth behind one of America's most notorious unsolved murder mysteries. Wall Street 1920 explosion. The Wall Street bombing of 1920 was a terrorist attack that occurred on September 16, 1920, in the financial district of Manhattan, New York City. It remains one of the deadliest acts of terrorism in American history. Prior to the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, the bombing targeted the heart of the nation's financial center and left a lasting impact on the city and the country as a whole. At noon on that fateful day, a horse-drawn wagon loaded with explosives detonated near the intersection of Wall Street and Broad Street, just across from the headquarters of J.P. Morgan and Company. The blast was powerful, creating a crater in the street and sending shrapnel and debris flying through the air. The explosion was so massive that it shattered windows blocks away and caused chaos and panic in the surrounding area. The bombing resulted in the deaths of 38 people and injured over 100 others, making it one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in American history up to that point. The victims included financial workers, clerks, messengers, and bystanders who happened to be in the vicinity at the time of the explosion. In the aftermath of the bombing, law enforcement agencies launched an extensive investigation to identify the perpetrators and uncover their motives. Suspicion initially fell on radical anarchist groups, given the anti-capitalist sentiment prevalent at the time and the targeting of a symbol of American capitalism. Despite efforts to apprehend the perpetrators, no arrests were ever made in connection with the Wall Street bombing, and the case remains officially unsolved to this day. The lack of conclusive evidence and the passage of time have made it increasingly difficult to determine who was responsible for the attack. The Wall Street bombing of 1920 left a lasting scar on the nation's psyche and served as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of American cities to acts of terrorism. The attack prompted increased security measures and surveillance in major urban centers and fueled debates about the balance between civil liberties and national security. As of the latest updates, the investigation into the Wall Street bombing of 1920 remains open, with authorities periodically revisiting the case in the hopes of finally uncovering the truth behind one of America's most infamous terrorist attacks. Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper, a shadowy figure cloaked in mystery, operated during a time of immense social upheaval in late 19th century London. The East End, where the Ripper carried out his grisly crimes, was a labyrinth of narrow streets, overcrowded tenements, and abject poverty. It was an area plagued by crime, vice, and desperation, where life was cheap and danger lurked around every corner. Against this backdrop of urban decay and social inequality, Jack the Ripper emerged as a dark and malevolent force, preying on the most vulnerable members of society. His victims, predominantly impoverished women working as prostitutes, were already marginalized and exploited, making them easy targets for a ruthless killer. The Ripper's murders were marked by their brutality and savagery. Each victim was subjected to horrific mutilations, with their bodies left in gruesome poses that seemed intended to shock and horrify. The sheer violence of the crime sent shockwaves through Victorian society, prompting widespread outrage and fear. The investigation into the Ripper's crimes was unprecedented in its scale and intensity. Scotland Yard, the London Metropolitan Police, and even private citizens launched exhaustive efforts to apprehend the killer, but their efforts were hampered by a lack of forensic evidence and the cunning of their elusive quarry. Despite the passage of more than a century, the identity of Jack the Ripper remains a tantalizing enigma. Countless theories and suspects have been proposed, ranging from the plausible to the outlandish. Some believe the Ripper was a skilled surgeon or butcher, while others suggest he may have been a member of the aristocracy or even a royal prince. The Ripper's legacy endures to this day, captivating the imaginations of true crime enthusiasts and historians alike. Books, films, and documentaries continue to explore the case, each offering its own interpretation of the events and the identity of the killer. Yet despite all the speculation and investigation, the true identity of Jack the Ripper remains one of history's most enduring mysteries, ensuring that his dark legend will continue to haunt the pages of history for generations to come. Subscribe and press the notification to get updates for upcoming parts of this iceberg.